Hello, and welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 16. I'm Emily Williams from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And thanks for joining me today. And maybe you can see through the window behind me that it's pretty dark today. It's cloudy and rainy. I believe we're getting some effect of the tropical system that formed in the Gulf and is crossing over the Florida area, Georgia, Alabama, that area, which frankly, the rain is welcome. We have had pretty good rain this season, but it's always nice to have a rainy day, in my opinion. So, and speaking of the weather, I'm going to start by showing you cross stitch because this is a floss tube. This is Temperature Tree, pattern by StitchinMommy from Etsy. You can get it from Etsy. I am really enjoying this. This past week, I decided that I was just going to finish the branches. And so I finished all the branches. I didn't put any more leaves in for September. You just see 3 leaves there. I just wanted to finish the branches so I could move forward on leaves and not have to plan time to do the branches. There are a lot of stitches in this piece. And there are mistakes. I have made mistakes, but really it's a tree, so it's not going to be symmetrical or exactly even or anything. It's going to have a little bit of an organic feel to it, so I'm pleased with that. And I'm enjoying it, and if you are interested in doing a temperature project, you should check out StitchinMommy's Etsy shop, because she has that one and several others, 3 or 4 others. Under the Roof of Blue Ionian Weather. I've worked on this quite a lot, although when I show it to you, you might not be able to tell too much. I've been working down in this area where the floss color is almost exactly the same color as the fabric. But I'm about to approach this section right here, which has a lot of solid stitching in a brightish, white-ish color. So it's going to go really fast once I get there, except you won't be able to really see what I've accomplished until I get all the other grayer stitches, the shadow, filled in more. But it's kind of fun. It's been fun to make progress because I enjoy this piece and I'm looking forward to having it finished. I'll fold it a bit. Yeah, you can't really see, but a lot of stitching over here. Well, you have to believe me, it's there. That is a chart from Golden Kite. I always want to say on Golden Kite because of the movie. It is not on Golden Kite. It is Golden Kite. I've been working quite a bit on Ornament. Is this right set up? Yes. So I've been in this section. Is that right? You know, I think it is. I may have this. It's so hard to, I have to say that if you've ever made a video, it's backwards. It's what I'm seeing is not what I expect to see, but I think it's right way for you. This is the main block I've been working on. I finished this block, did quite a bit of the border. I might have done that the last time I showed you. And I've been working on this block, so I've passed 50%. That's pretty exciting. And this is where it is now. Let me get back a little farther. And this block is the one I'm working on, and I went ahead this morning and started to do the lighter blue fill-in just to begin to see the dimension of it. So once that's all filled in, it'll be even, I think, prettier. And I have to say that these little images in the corners, I was stitching them last weekend while we were watching football. And as I was stitching them, I thought, oh, those look like footballs. What is this design again? Of course, it's a leaf, but it really reminded me of footballs. Also last weekend was Blackbird Designs Weekend, Stitch Along Weekend, BBD Weekend Sal. And I had the goal, I think I mentioned before, of working on this big flower arrangement. As you see, I got a lot done on it. That is many, 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 many stitches. It's possibly 1,000, several hundred for sure. And I'm not done, but I did make a lot of progress. So there's this medium blue to still put in there. Here and here are medium blue flowers. And then there's some more ball things down here, and there's a red ball that goes there. So I think the next time I work on that, I will finish that flower arrangement with those things that are not in it yet. Then there's some other motifs that go around it. I'll show you the picture. And A. Adams and July 1776. July 4th, 1776. So there's this flower arrangement and this flag, bird with a flag. So I'll work on that. And of course, most of the border has the stem and leaf part, but most of it does not have the flower buds. So I will be working on that as well. But again, I'm still just enjoying this so much. It's one of my favorite things to work on. And if I didn't have so many other projects, I would work on it all the time. But I have a lot of other projects. And then finally, I have made a little progress on this piece, Flea Market Flowers. This is Lori Holt design, published by It's So Emma, which is the publishing arm of Fat Quarter Shop. And I want you to look at that pattern and see how beautiful those colors are, how bright and cheerful that whole thing is, which is why I was attracted to this pattern. And here's where I am. So I did all the little outlines of the boxes, and then I've done these 2 flowers. I'm gonna just fold this over. And remember, this is on 16 count Aida, which is stiff as a board. I hope that's focusing, I think it is. So those are the 2 flowers I've done, and I've started on the larger flower down below. Yes, I carried my thread right across there, but it's all filled in with a center, so you'll never see that. And I was going to carry on, and I decided to pause because I am not sure I like these colors. Now I am doing this on the call for DMC threads. Here's the list, and the pattern is written with DMC. There is no other thread that's given. So it isn't as if it has DMC and some other set. And right here, again, because this is backwards, this is what I have done, these 2 flowers right here. Those 2 flowers. And started this one. And let me show you this again. They're just not as bright. So I paused it because I was thinking about whether I was going to change the floss. And I went on one of the Facebook groups I'm in. I asked if anybody else had stitched this and if they'd done the called for DMCs and if they thought it was duller than the picture. And one person commented that so I'm doing it on white Aida. The picture is on barley Lugana, which I think is a little bit of a warmer color. It's a little off-white in the warm direction. And she said that she was doing it on the barley and that her fabric was the barley that's called for and the DMCs that's called for. And her fabric looks darker than what's in the picture, so she imagines that the picture is just brighter because of how they did it. And, yeah, not sure that I'm really happy about that. So I've paused and thought about this for a couple of days. And I also went on Instagram and looked for people who'd posted their progress on this piece. And I found a lot of pictures that I could tell that they had used called for DMC, and it looks like mine looks. And they're all thrilled with how it's turning out. At least that's what they're saying on Instagram. So, what I think I'm deciding is that I'm going to carry on with the colors that are called for and not try to brighten them up. Because, for one thing, I realized in looking at other people's pictures that this section, that these two flowers, are among the lowest contrast between the two colors that are in each flower of any of the flowers in the design. So I've started in a maybe less representative place. And I do want to give the designer the benefit of the doubt that she, Lori Holt, picked nice colors. I have watched her YouTube channel. She does a lot of quilting and some cross-stitching and other crafts, other types of tutorials. She's really very creative and I like what she does. So I think I'm going to carry on with this. And at least my current plan is to finish it using the called for DMC. So I think that's right. So that was 5 projects that I actually made quite a bit of progress on this since I last videoed, which was less than a week ago, because I last videoed, I believe it was Saturday last week. Might have been Friday. Today's Thursday, September 9th. And I'm videoing today because I'm going to be out of town tomorrow, Saturday, and most of Sunday. And I won't be able to make a video. And I'll just point out right now, I hope that you enjoy these videos and that you look forward to them each week. And therefore you wouldn't want to miss one. And the best way to not miss one is to hit the subscribe button and then click on the little bell symbol that's right next to it. That will let you receive a notification whenever I post a video. Now, I am probably not going to I probably will post a video next week on Thursday or Friday also, because I have some things going on the weekend, next weekend. But after that, I'll probably be back to a Friday or Saturday plan. At least that's what I think. So that's the thing. Now, what else? Remember, this is Flosstube and Variety Show. So what's in the Variety Show section, you may be wondering. So I wanted to show you this thing, this object. Some of you have seen this kind of thing before. I mean, I hesitate to open it because things are going to fall out of it, because it's a card file with things stacked on top of it. Card file. If I get that right up there, you might be able to read some of the tabs. This is my mother's recipe box, and she died 24 years ago, roughly. And I was so happy to get her recipe box, and I have been through it several times. She has categories, so starting at the front, just to show the priorities. The very first category is bar cookies, and then is cookies, and then is cakes, and then is desserts. And then is fish, and then icings, then jams, etc., then meat, and then chicken, salads, vegetables, miscellaneous, and then at the very back, household. So I love the priority that this recipe box shows, because truly half of it, almost half of it right here, is up through desserts. And then we have, oh yes, I forgot candy. There's that tab as well. Then we have like 3 cards in the fish category, and why that category is where it is, I don't know. And then we have icings, candy, and jams. So half of the recipes are the important things. But that also reflects how my mother cooked, because I believe, I learned from her, of course, most of us learn from our mothers, and you need a recipe for baking, but you don't really need a recipe for other kinds of dishes. You don't need one. And I think the reason is because baking is chemistry, except for yeast baking, which is biology. But regular baking of cookies and cakes has to do with how much baking soda, how much salt, how much acid, and those are chemical things. And so you need to have the right proportions in order to have the item turn out the way you expect it to. So I think that's why there's more baking recipes than cooking recipes. I also had a conversation with some friends once about whether you consider yourself a cook or a baker, and if that makes a difference. And what does it mean to be a cook? What are you if you're a cook? Is it just something that you prepare meals all the time? Or is there more to it than that? For example, the reason that there aren't as many recipes in here is because for main dishes is because my mother did not use a recipe for a main dish. For instance, one of the things that she cooked, she fixed a lot for us, was what we called pressure cooker meat, which was basically a round steak or a chuck steak that she cut up into pieces like this, and she took most of the fat off of it. And then a bunch of carrots peeled and cut into 2-inch pieces, potatoes peeled and maybe halved, waxy potatoes, not russet potatoes, but like red skin potatoes, that type, and onions that she would peel and quarter. And that would go in a pressure cooker. And she sometimes browned the meat, but not always. And then she would put in a little beef bouillon or a Lipton onion soup mix or something like that, and a little water. And she would do it in the pressure cooker, and it would take 15 minutes, and we would have the whole meal done. I don't remember, 15 minutes might not be right, but she did a lot of pressure cooker meat, and it was delicious. It was one of the things we really liked. But she didn't use a recipe. She just put in there what she thought of putting in there. I think sometimes she put a can of crushed tomatoes instead of the bouillon. And I don't think she ever cooked with wine very much, but you could just put some wine in there also. And so that was cooking. And if she's going to fix chicken, she cuts up the chicken into its pieces. She spreads it out in a casserole pan. She sprinkles it with salt and pepper, and she puts it in the oven, or she sprinkles it with some other seasoning, whatever strikes her fancy, and puts it in the oven. And so you don't need a recipe for that. But you do need a recipe if you're going to make biscuits or chocolate chip cookies or something. And even if you don't have a written recipe, for example, for biscuits, you know what the proportions have to be. And often, if you're not using a written recipe, and people, in the South, we're famous for biscuits down here. I'm not a Southerner by birth, but I make good biscuits. And one of the keys to making good biscuits in the South is to use self-rising flour, where that proportion of salt and baking powder and flour has already been worked out, and you just add your fat, your butter or Crisco or lard, and milk or buttermilk. And the package on the back says if you're going to add buttermilk, you should also add a half a teaspoon or whatever proportion according to how much you're making of baking soda, because it reacts to the acid in the buttermilk. So anyway, that is the difference between cooking and baking. Now, I don't use my mother's recipe book, even though I use a good number of her recipes, because I made my own little collection called Emily's Kitchen. This I made a few years ago. This is the second edition. The first edition was in 2001, so that's 20 years ago, and the second edition was in 2008. And I wrote a little foreword in it, and I have all, different recipes and these are recipes that I actually use. And the reason I even made the cookbook was not to give away. It was because I didn't want to think about which cookbook was that in, or which magazine, or go through my own saved recipes or my mother's recipe box over and over to look for something. I wanted it all conveniently in one place. So I made that, and it's very handy for me. And then in, what year? In 2015, I made more Emily's Kitchen. And this was another 25 or so recipes of things that I had discovered since making the first Emily's Kitchen. And this is what I use. When I am looking for a recipe, I start with my own favorite recipes. These are recipes I have actually made, or I have actually eaten, that someone else that I actually know made them. But by now, I have actually made everything in these cookbooks. Now, I've left a little message in the description box that if you would like copies, I happen to have some extra copies of these. If you would like copies of these, I would be happy to send them to you. My Instagram is 2rivers58, 2rivers_58, 2rivers58, 2rivers, wow, 2rivers_58 on Instagram. You can message me there with your address, and I will be happy to send you these two recipe books. This one has about 100 or so, has 76 pages, has a little index. I'm so fancy. The index might not be completely accurate. This one has 28 pages. I think it only has a table of contents at the beginning because it's much shorter. I didn't want to bother with an index, and I didn't do it by categories, but this one has categories in it. And I'll just, Aunt Mary's hot sauce, spiced pineapple from Ruby's Kitchen, which is a collection of recipes for Aunt Ruby that I made a few years ago, Mexican breakfast with a sour cream sauce, sesame crusted tuna with ginger peanut rice, delicious. Baked beans, baked sweet potato fries, macaroni and cheese, the one we like the best right now. Roasted chicken with clementines and arak. Yeah, fancy. Anyway, if you're interested, I'd be happy to send you those. And that's all I have for today. We've crept over my we're about at 25 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. Can you hear the rain? I can hear the rain. I love it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll come back next week. Again, if you don't want to miss an episode, which are roughly weekly, subscribe and click on the little bell. If you think I already have your mailing address, you can just comment below that you'd like copies of my cookbooks. And I shouldn't call them cookbooks. They are recipe collections, is what they are. So that is what I have. Thank you so much, and many blessings to you, friends.